Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
It says here, this is the next kind of interesting chapter in her life. In 1982, Duvall narrated, hosted, and was executive producer of the children's television program Fairy Tale Theater. And this was, I believe, on Showtime. And just to kind of sum up that portion of her life and career, Shelly became a producer on for a number of she did, and it was just completely her produced, and really felt like coming from her, a number of series. First Fairy Tale Theater, and a later one called Tall Tales and Legends. Throughout the 80s, she did these numbers of series, and Fairy Tale Theater was the longest one. It ran from, I think, like 82 to 87. She had so many famous people in her Fairy Tale Theater that it just exemplifies how prominent she was in Hollywood, who she could pull in as a producer. But her Fairy Tale Theater series, and later she did like a one that was like horror stories. They were all kind of, directed towards children, and they really had a campy kind of off-Broadway kind of like very like children's theater style to them, and they're really fun because they show so much of Shelly's character. Just, I think that really was the most like she was ever involved in making anything, and just really cool. I remember when I was a little tiny kid, my sister and I had like a VHS of VHS tape of Shelley Duvall. She produced like rock and roll lullabies, and I think it was with like Elton John, and I know Little Richard was like in the bathtub singing a song, and Stevie Nicks and stuff. So yeah, like doing like fairy tales and reenacting like the golden goose that laid the golden egg and stuff, and as she did these fairy tales. And like, for example, with her fairy tales, I know there's one with Jeff Bridges in it where he plays her husband, and the two of them steal an eggplant from this witch, and then she puts a curse on the baby or something. It's like some kind of like a fairy tale. They do like a Rapunzel with the little short guy from Fantasy Island, that little French man from like that 70s show, like Fantasy Island or whatever. He plays, Rumpelstiltskin. He plays Rumpelstiltskin.
You give up.
Well then, it must be Rumpelstiltskin. No?
Just like an incredible amount of famous people coming through on her multiple Showtime series that she did throughout the 80s. And also during the 80s, she did, in 1984, she did Frankenweenie, which is like a short version of the cartoon that Tim Burton later remade of his own film. This one was in 1984, and it's like in black and white and short. You can totally rent it on your TV or Amazon Prime or Netflix or wherever, and that's a fun watch. Just another cool example of her, and I'm sure there's a lot of fans of hers watching this video. It's not just going to be everyone just totally oblivious, but yeah, I watched like a Fairy Tale Theater the other day that had Mick Jagger playing like the Japanese emperor, something about the emperor and the songbird. So her fairy tale show is actually like really fun and great and unique because it tells a lot of like more obscure fairy tale stories or cultural world ones that we don't really get shown all the time by Disney or other large studios. And I think they really stand up to this day with all the amazing people coming through. Like Sissy Spacek was on her Fairy Tale show. Says Jerry Hall. I forget who Jerry Hall is right now, but I know who she is sometimes. She's definitely a model or something. I know she was like married to Mick Jagger. Yeah, so later on she did Nightmare Classics, which only ran for 1 year, but has similar kind of low budget, but like great writing, low budget feel, and so all of these like are on YouTube. I don't know who's looking after their copyrights, but I definitely recommend checking those out, especially if you've heard of Shelley Duvall and you don't really know anything beyond her from The Shining. I would highly recommend looking at Three Women and looking at her Showtime series that she produced, which the biggest one again was Fairy Tale Theater. I think Fairy Tale Time Theater. Fairy Tale Theater. Yeah, so one of the reasons that I wanted to do a video on Shelley Duvall beyond just being fascinated by her and her work and her output in film as an actress is that a couple of years ago she kind of appeared out of the blue. I mean, prior to this I had become a fan of hers just because of The Shining. It's like, where is she? I wonder where she is. No real news about her. She appeared in movies with smaller roles throughout kind of the 90s here and there, but it doesn't seem like working was necessarily that big of a focus in her life at that time. And the most recent role she was in was in 2002, so she definitely hasn't been acting for a number of years, but I believe it was like 2016 or 2018, she showed up on the Dr. Phil show, and she was not in a good way. Seems like maybe she's like schizophrenic. It was really sad to see her. Not that she looked terrible physically or anything, but she was just talking a whole bunch of nonsense. I'll never forget. And people at the time felt like the Dr. Phil show was being really exploitative because she clearly was suffering from some form of mental illness, whether it was dementia or schizophrenia.
The Shining's Shelley Duvall, from red carpet to near recluse.
I loved Robin Williams. I don't think he's dead.
Where do you think he is?
Shape-shifting.
Do you see him?
Has, yes.
A star's descent into mental illness.
The man who's threatening me is the sheriff of Nottingham. I think there's a whirring disc inside me. I'm very sick. I need help.
Well, that's why I'm here.
That's Friday.
I don't know if she was in Idaho or Texas, but she lives with her and supports and takes care of her much older mother, who must be 95 or something. No judgment there, but she hasn't really been in the spotlight at all. So for her to kind of appear like this, and then, the way it was painted in the show, but also just truthfully, it didn't seem like she was in a good way. She doesn't seem like was really getting the kind of support from society and doctors and the kind of medical support it seems that she needs at this time or needed. So a lot of people, like, an interesting side note of her story is she was most famous for starring in The Shining, and people felt that it's been talked about a lot and just really widely reported accurately that she really did not get along with the director of The Shining, Stanley Kubrick, and that he just really kind of belittled her and would scream at her and was just evil to her. And he, I think, confirmed that he was this way to rile her up and get a great performance out of her. But fans and other people think that may have caused, psychological damage that's really affecting her to this day. I don't think that's necessarily the cause. I'm sure it may have been a contributing factor to kind of the state of her mental health, and hopefully she's doing a little better now. But So, yeah, after the show, I know that Stanley Kubrick's daughter started like a GoFundMe page and collected a bunch of money to donate to Shelley Duvall, but there was some kind of reason, because she financially is in trouble too. There's some kind of reason that she was unable to receive the money, because it would like mess with her housing, you know, like subsidized housing or whatever through the government. So that's just really kind of unfortunate and speaks to kind of someone who was really at the peak of Hollywood, and to just kind of disappear and vanish, and to reappear on the Dr. Phil show the way she did. So it got me kind of worried about her, and it makes me wonder just like where are some of her friends from back in the day. Anyway, so just to like get a little more positive on it, that she's just one of the coolest actresses in my opinion, and I think I mostly covered everything that I wanted to. I'd also like to just say that even though I've like reflected on some complicated parts of her life, like I really respect Shelley Duvall, and this video comes from a complete place of love, and just would love for more people to kind of pay attention to her and to hear more about her, and I'm grateful for her work, and encourage you guys to check out things that she's been in. Thank you so much. Peace.
Everybody probably expected, them to be able to pull Olive's arms out like a rubber band and boing, let go, and have Popeye eating lots of spinach and doing things. But it's kind of hard when you're human. I mean, instead of doing it animated. Yeah, I know. I was saying, no, let go, let go.